Chapter 1. The Call. The comm crackled with static before Ashley's voice cut through, professional but edged with the particular exhaustion that came from managing a war zone. DeSara, we need to talk logistics. DeSara looked up from the tactical display she'd been monitoring. The Pac Den's war room hummed with activity, operatives tracking known Black Dawn cell locations, intelligence reports flowing in from multiple fronts. She'd been running operations for 6 hours straight, and her coffee had gone cold 2 hours ago. Go ahead, DeSara said, pulling up the Eldermeyer feed. We've got 100 prisoners total from the swept cell sites. 30 critical. We're talking malnutrition, dehydration, infection. The rest are walking wounded, mostly psychological breakdown. 3 elite Voidstone operatives that are actual security concerns. The rest? Ashley's tone softened slightly. They're just broken conscripts. Black Dawn abandoned them months ago. Desira's fingers moved across the display, pulling medical assessment protocols. Jules with you? Yeah, she's doing what she can, but we don't have the infrastructure for this. We weren't set up to run a field hospital for 100 people. What about the control crystals? DeSara asked, already knowing the logistics nightmare would be worse than she'd hoped. Extracted and secured. Packed for transport. They're ready to ship back to the Den workshop. Eli's going to want to see them as soon as possible. DeSara nodded, making notes. I'll coordinate the transport. What's your recommendation on the prisoners? A pause on the line. Ashley was thinking it through. Tactical assessment, resource management, the mathematics of keeping people alive when you had limited supplies. Eldermeyer can't hold them long term, Ashley said finally. The infrastructure's intact, but we're looking at feeding, medical care, psychological support for the majority. If we keep them here, we're tying up personnel and resources that should be on other operations. And the elites? They need proper containment. Echo Division might want them for interrogation, but I'm recommending we move the regular conscripts. Where? That's your call. But these people were abandoned by their own leadership. They have zero loyalty to Black Dawn. Most of them are traumatized enough that they'll cooperate. They just need to not die. Desira understood what Ashley wasn't saying directly. This was a population management problem, not a military one. And the Pack didn't have the resources to run a refugee camp on Merc Dusk. I'll coordinate with Gunner, DeSara said. Stand by. She ended the transmission and immediately pulled up the den's internal comms. Gunner, I need you in the Wolf Den. Got a situation that needs command-level decision. The den's lower levels existed in a different climate than the operational spaces above. Cooler, quieter. The Wolf Den, a sprawling chamber lined with stone and reinforced with protective enchantments, was where Alpha and the Pack stayed when they weren't operational. Gunner was already there when DeSara arrived, crouched beside Beta. The pregnant timber wolf was massive even on her side, her coat a deep silver grey that seemed to absorb light. Her breathing was heavy, laboured, and when she turned her head to acknowledge DeSara's entrance, her amber eyes were focused inward, reading the signals only her body could tell. Alpha stood guard near the far wall, his golden gaze tracking both of them with the intensity of a bonded alpha protecting his mate. The space between them crackled with pack tension. Alpha knew what was coming. The pregnancy had been advancing for weeks, and the signs were all there. Soon. She's close, Gunner said, not looking up from Beta. His hand was gentle on the Timberwolf's flank, feeling the contractions. His prosthetic arm, the one Eli had built him with the hidden retractable dagger, rested against her shoulder. Maybe another hour. Maybe less. DeSara had learned to read Gunner's voice during crisis. Right now, beneath the calm assessment, was something that sounded almost like tenderness. Not weakness, but the kind of strength that knew how to be gentle with something that mattered. We've got a prisoner situation, DeSara said without preamble. Ashley had sounded exhausted. The Pack needed decisions, not time. Gunner finally looked up. His single blue eye, the cybernetic one, flickered with that particular intensity that meant he was shifting mental gears. from Wolf Father to Commanding Officer. Numbers? 100 total, 30 critical medical cases, 70 walking wounded, mostly conscripts, 3 elite Voidstone operatives. Gunner's jaw tightened. From the cell sweeps? Yeah, Black Dawn abandoned them months ago. They've got 0 organizational loyalty left. Ashley says they'll cooperate, but we can't hold them at Eldermire long term. Infrastructure's not sufficient and it's tying up personnel. Beta groaned, her entire body tensing. Gunner placed both hands on her side, the prosthetic and his remaining flesh hand, and waited out the contraction. His voice, when he spoke again, was steady but quieter. What's Ashley's recommendation? Move the regular conscripts. Keep the elites in Echo Division detention. But she's asking where we put 100 traumatized soldiers that we can't process through normal military channels. Gunner was quiet for a moment, thinking. Alpha approached Beta's head, pressing his massive frame against hers in a gesture that was simultaneously protective and comforting. The two wolves were bonded in ways that went deeper than biology. They were pack in the truest sense. We don't have the resources, Gunner said finally. And we shouldn't. We're soldiers, not jailers, not rehabilitators. So what do we do? DeSera asked. Release them. They've been traumatized, abandoned, dehydrated, malnourished. Just cutting them loose without support. No, Gunner looked at her. That's not what I mean. We don't abandon them like Black Dawn did. But we also don't create infrastructure for something that isn't our mission. Another contraction rippled through Beta. This one was stronger. Her breathing quickened. We use the Alliance, Gunner continued, his mind clearly working through the problem even as his attention stayed partially on Beta. We identify where each of these conscripts came from. Some are probably from Alfheim, some from Atherin, Murkdusk, Concordia. We send them back to their home realms. It proves the Alliance actually works, that we coordinate across realms to take care of people, that we don't abandon soldiers like Black Dawn did. DeSera saw where he was going. You want to repatriate them through the Alliance? I want to use it as proof of concept, Gunner said. Right now, Earth and Alfheim have treaties signed. Atherin, Murkdusk, and Concordia are still negotiating. What better way to prove the Alliance means something than by coordinating the return of their own soldiers? Show them we actually take care of people, that we believe in each other beyond just military cooperation. Beta's breathing became rapid, shallow. Gunner's hand moved lower, assessing the position of the puppies. His expression didn't change, but there was something in his posture that suggested he was counting the minutes now. We call Eliana, Gunner said. Tell her what we have. Tell her we need her to identify which realm each conscript came from. Then coordinate the repatriation with the Council. Medical priority first. This is her chance to prove what the ambassador role actually means. She's in Alfheim, DeSera pointed out. It'll take time to reach her. Then we start now, Gunner said. Get me a secure line, and get Ashley to start organizing the prisoners, complete manifestos, names, descriptions, any information they can provide about their origins. Everything goes to Eliana. Beta groaned again. Longer this time. More insistent. Alpha pressed closer and Gunner shifted his position. You're watching this? He asked DeSera, not unkindly. If you need me, DeSera said. I don't. This is between pack. Gunner's attention was fully on Beta now. Go make the call. Get Eliana on the line. Tell her Gunner's offering her the chance to earn that ambassador pay she joked about. DeSera left him there with the wolves, already pulling up the communication protocols for reaching Alfheim. The secure line to Alfheim took time to establish. DeSera waited in the communications chamber while the technician worked through the encryption protocols, the signal boost arrays, the dimensional thinning calculations that let them reach across realms. Finally, connection. Aliana's face flickered onto the screen. The Guardian was in what looked like a formal chamber, her silver hair bound in intricate braids that suggested she'd been in official meetings. Behind her, the architecture of Alfheim was visible, soaring spires, living light, the aesthetic of a realm that had learned to blend magic and beauty into something transcendent. Dezera, Eliana said, surprise flickering across her features. This isn't the scheduled communication window. Is something… Gunnar wants to talk to you, Dezera interrupted. It's not an emergency. He's just occupied at the moment. Can you hold for a few minutes? Eliana's expression shifted to something between curiosity and amusement. Occupied with what exactly? Pack business. You'll understand when you talk to him. Hold on. Dezera left the secure line open and made her way back to the wolf den. She found Gunnar on his knees now, his hands, both the flesh and the prosthetic, moving with practiced precision. Beta was in full labour, her body convulsing with the effort of bringing new life. Alpha stood guard, his presence a constant reassurance. And from what Dezera could see, the first puppy was already crowning. She's ready for you, Dezera said quietly. Gunnar looked up, his expression intense with concentration. I'm almost done here. 2 more minutes. The first puppy emerged in a rush of fluid and membrane. Gunnar caught it with both hands, cradling it as he cleared the amniotic sac from its nose and mouth. It was small. Timberwolves stayed relatively small as newborns before they grew into their full size, but it was breathing, crying, alive. He placed it against Beta's side, and the mother wolf immediately began cleaning it with gentle licks. 1 down, Gunnar murmured. 2 more coming. The second puppy was faster, arriving within minutes. Then the third. By the time all 3 were breathing and nursing against Beta's side, Gunnar was covered in birth fluids and looked like he'd just fought a war. He rinsed his hands in the provided wash station, dried them off, and made his way to the communications chamber with Dezera trailing behind. When his face appeared on screen beside Dezera's, Eliana's eyebrows rose slightly at his appearance. The sweat, the exhaustion, the particular kind of exhilaration that came after successfully witnessing new life. Gunnar, she said, a smile playing at her lips. You look like you've been through something. Beta just delivered 3 healthy puppies, he said, without preamble. Everyone's good, but that's not why I'm calling. Gunnar outlined the situation quickly, the prisoner situation, the numbers, the fact that they were conscripts from Black Dawn's various cell locations, but he reframed the entire problem. These aren't refugees, he said. These are soldiers who were conscripted, then abandoned by their own leadership. Some are probably from your realm. Some from Atherin, Murkdusk, Concordia. They've been separated from their home realms, traumatized, left to die. We need to identify where each one came from and send them back. Eliana's expression shifted. This was different than what she'd apparently been expecting. You want to repatriate them? She asked. I want to use this as a diplomatic tool, Gunnar said directly. Right now, Earth and Alfheim have signed the alliance treaties. Atherin, Murkdusk, and Concordia are still negotiating. What better way to prove the alliance means something than by coordinating the return of their soldiers? You identify who came from which realm. We handle the logistics. Each realm gets their people back with medical care and support. It shows the alliance actually works. It advances those treaties. Eliana leaned back slightly, thinking. You're using the prisoners as leverage for the treaty negotiations. I'm using them as proof of concept, Gunnar corrected. If we can coordinate something this complex, identifying soldiers from multiple realms, routing them back through proper channels, showing that we actually take care of people instead of abandoning them, then we prove the alliance is more than just military cooperation. We prove we actually believe in each other. That's politically sophisticated, Eliana said quietly. It's also genuine, Gunnar replied. These people deserve to go home. The other realms deserve to know we're actually invested in this alliance. Both things are true at the same time. Eliana's smile widened slightly. You're learning. I had a good teacher, Gunnar said. Can you do this? Can you identify where each conscript came from and work with the council to coordinate their repatriation? Yes, Eliana said without hesitation. Though I'll need the full prisoner manifests. identifying information, anything they can tell us about where they're from. And I'll need to present this to the Council as a diplomatic initiative, not just a logistics problem. I'll have Desera send you everything within the hour, Gunnar said. And Eliana, this is exactly what ambassador work looks like. You're about to prove to Atherin, Merc Dusk, and Concordia that the Alliance actually delivers, that we don't just work together militarily, we take care of each other's people. That matters. I'm aware it matters, Eliana said. That's why I'm going to make sure this succeeds. Give me the files. I'll have preliminary assessments within 24 hours. Thank you, Gunnar said. Don't thank me yet, Eliana replied. But Gunnar, this was a good play. Smart strategically, but also genuine. The Council will respond to that authenticity. They'll see this as the Pack genuinely investing in the Alliance, not just extracting value from it. After the call ended, Desera looked at Gunnar. That went well. It did, Gunnar agreed. Now we need to get the prisoner files organised and sent to Alfheim within the hour. And I need you to brief Ashley on what's happening. Tell her to prepare complete manifestos, names, descriptions, any information the prisoners can provide about their origins. Everything goes to Eliana. And the 3 elite operatives? Desera asked. Echo Division handles interrogation. We coordinate with Sophia's people on that. Make sure they know we're sending over the files. But those 3 are military assets now. They go into proper detention. Gunnar was already moving, heading back toward the den's operational center. Behind them, in the wolf den, Alpha was settling in beside Beta and her 3 newborn puppies, the future of the Pack's wolf line secured and safe. While messages moved between realms and prisoner manifestos were compiled, Gunnar was back in the den with his pack. Beta was resting now, her 3 puppies nursing contentedly against her side. Alpha had settled into his protective position, a wall of silver fur and predatory elegance, making it clear that nothing was going to disturb his mate or their young. Gunnar sat against the wall watching them. His exhaustion was catching up with him now that the immediate crisis was over. The pregnancy, the birth, the decisions about prisoners and alliances, the call to Eliana. It was all settling into that particular kind of bone-deep tiredness that came from continuous responsibility. He closed his eye, his real eye, and let himself just breathe for a moment. Rose, Shade, and Katrina had successfully completed the Umbral mission. They were back. The archive was secure. And now Gunnar was sitting in a stone chamber surrounded by new life, contemplating how to use 100 traumatized soldiers as the foundation for the alliance he was building. It was a strange war. One fought not just with weapons and strategy, but with choices that meant something. Not just with tactical advantage, but with genuine belief in something larger than immediate survival. The Pack had infiltrated Umbral and stolen an archive. They'd broken Black Dawn cells across multiple locations. They'd captured soldiers and taken prisoners. And now they were going to send those prisoners home, not as trophies or assets, but as proof that the alliance was real, that it was worth something, that it mattered. Behind him, Beta stirred, her puppies shifting as they fed. Alpha's golden eyes opened, watching Gunnar with the patient understanding of a bonded pack member who knew his Alpha was working through something that went beyond the immediate. Gunnar stood carefully and made his way toward the war room. There was more to do. There was always more to do. But for the first time since this all started, he felt like they might actually be building something that lasted. Not just winning the war, but creating the peace that came after. Chapter 2. The Message. Eli was in the portal chamber when the secure comm activated, Desera's voice cutting through the dimensional stabilization hum. Eli, we need you back at the den. Priority intel analysis. Control crystals inbound from Eldermire. Gunnar's orders. Eli looked up from the portal calibration readings she'd been reviewing. The House of Silver Mirrors network was running smoothly. The infiltration team had returned successfully, and the dimensional corridors were as stable as they'd ever been. I'm on my way, she said without hesitation. She gathered her portable analysis kit, the same one she'd used for the Starbreaker assessments, filled with diagnostic tools and resonance sensors. If control crystals from Black Dawn's portal network were coming in, they'd tell a story. They always did. The dimensional portal hummed as she approached. The transition was smooth, practiced, and within minutes she was stepping into the den's arrival chamber on Earth soil. The workshop was bustling, but not in the way Eli expected. The main floor was coordinated chaos. Operatives moving between stations, tactical displays updating, the machine shop humming with activity. But the lab was quiet, too quiet. Eli's instincts prickled as she pushed through the reinforced door into her workspace. The first thing she saw was Starbreaker, disassembled across the central bench, every major component separated, the receiver exposed, the rune lattice completely laid bare. The second thing she saw was Cyberpunk 2077 paused on the monitor, the game's neon HUD frozen mid-screen, neural interface systems and weapon modification menus visible. The third thing she saw was her blueprints covered in new sketches and notes. Caleb and Alatheris were hunched over the workbench, completely absorbed. Alatheris was mid-sketch, stylus moving with the precision of someone who understood both elven metallurgy and digital design logic. Caleb was holding a component, studying it against one of Eli's notes. Caleb looked up first. His eyes went wide. He saw Eli standing in the doorway, the particular stillness that came before a storm, and he immediately set down the component. "I'll see you later, Alatheris," he said quietly, already moving toward the secondary exit. Alatheris didn't even look up. "Caleb, we need to—" But Caleb was already gone. Alatheris kept working for another 3 seconds before something in the air changed. He felt it, that shift in atmospheric pressure that came when Eli Light walked into a room with murder in her eyes. He turned slowly. Eli stood motionless, her silver hair pulled back severely, her bracer gloves dark and dormant. Her eyes, which were usually warm or calculating depending on the situation, were currently showing neither. They were showing cold fury. "Tell me," she said quietly, her voice carrying the particular razor edge of someone counting to 10, very slowly, "what I'm looking at." Alatheris straightened, setting the stylus down with deliberate care. Behind him, the monitor still displayed the game's neon city, the neural interface HUD glowing in frozen time. "Eli," he began. "Not yet," she interrupted, her gaze moving from him to the disassembled Starbreaker, then to the blueprints, then to the paused game on the monitor. Her eyes lingered on that screen for a long moment. When she looked back at Alatheris, her expression had shifted from anger to something worse, disappointment, mixed with fury. "You designed weapon modifications," she said slowly, deliberately, "based on a video game." Alatheris opened his mouth, closed it. "We were exploring a concept," he started. "You took my rifle apart," Eli cut in, and now there was heat behind the words. "You deconstructed months of neural runic integration work. You covered my blueprints in notes inspired by a game that Caleb introduced you to, and you didn't think, not once, that maybe you should wait for the person who actually designed this weapon to come back." She moved to the bench, her hands hovering over the disassembled components like she was checking for damage. "Did you even touch the rune lattice?" she demanded. "Or did you just—" Her eyes landed on her blueprints, specifically on Alatheris's sketch of the neural runic conduit, the palm node, the translator crystal, the safety seals. She went absolutely still. "You maintained the consent runes," she said quietly, reading through his notes. "Jewel added dampening protocols. You integrated the existing Starlight lattice in Gunner's Arm as the conduit anchor point." Alatheris said nothing. He just waited. Eli's jaw clenched. She turned a full circle, taking in the entire scene. The game on the monitor showing neural interface systems, the way Alatheris had built on her foundational design. The fact that he'd actually understood what she was trying to accomplish deeply enough to expand it properly. This is solid work, she said finally. And it was somehow worse than anger because it was recognition wrapped around fury. This is really solid work. Which is why I'm absolutely furious that you did it without asking. She looked at him directly. You can't just touch another craftsperson's work, even if you understand it, even if you're adding good ideas. You ask first. You collaborate first. You don't apologize later. Aletharis met her gaze. You're correct. I know I'm correct, Eli said. That's not the point. The point is... She stopped, taking a breath. What were you trying to accomplish? Actually accomplish, not we were inspired by a game. What's the end goal here? Aletharis gestured to the blueprints, a neural runic interface that allows Gunnar to synchronize intent with weapon engagement. Thought to motion. The user's cybernetic arm becomes the conduit. His existing starlight lattice provides power and stability. The palm node reads bioelectric impulses and translates them into activation codes. The safety seals ensure only authorized signatures can engage. Mind gun, Eli said flatly. A more precise terminology would be preferable, Aletharis replied. Despite herself, Eli's expression cracked slightly. She looked at the monitor, at the cyberpunk HUD still frozen on screen, then back at Aletharis. You got this from a video game. Caleb introduced me to the concept. The digital metaphor of neural interface weapon systems has practical applications in runic architecture. The principles... I don't care about the principles right now, Eli interrupted. I care about the fact that you two were gaming and decided my life's work needed redesigning. Caleb and I, Aletharis corrected quietly. Only the two of us. Darren and Caleb play the game. I have recently become invested. Eli pinched the bridge of her nose. Okay, she said after a long moment. Okay. First, this work is actually good, which is infuriating because now I can't just tell you to stop. Second, you're never touching Starbreaker without explicit permission again. Third, you're going to show me these schematics properly because if we're doing this, we're doing it right. Does this mean you're not furious? Aletharis asked carefully. Oh, I'm furious, Eli said. I'm just also intrigued. Which makes me more furious because now I have to collaborate with you instead of just being angry. She sat down at the bench, pulling the blueprints toward her. Walk me through it, she said. Every modification, every safety protocol. And explain to me how you convinced Jewel to add emergency dampening charms without getting me first. Aletharis began talking, his hands moving across the schematics, explaining the neural lattice, the consent runes, the integration points with Gunnar's prosthetic arm. Behind them, Cyberpunk 2077 remained paused on the monitor, the inspiration source for the most advanced weapon redesign the PAX workshop had ever attempted, born from an elf learning to love video games and two craftspeople pushing the boundaries of what was possible. Eli listened, asked sharp questions, and slowly began to realize that maybe, Caleb's decision to introduce Aletharis to gaming had accidentally created something worth building on. She still wasn't happy about them touching her rifle, but she was willing to work with them. For now. Chapter 3. The Alpha Arrives. Gunnar pushed through the workshop doors carrying the secure containment package from Eldermire. The control crystals were inside, carefully shielded ready for analysis. DeSera had coordinated the transport from Concordia an hour ago, and he'd picked up the package personally from the arrival chamber. He was heading toward the lab to find Eli when he stopped. Because Starbreaker lay disassembled across her central workbench, every major component separated. The receiver exposed, the rune lattice completely bare, blueprints scattered everywhere with fresh sketches layered on top. Gunnar's eye flickered with that particular intensity that came when he was processing something unexpected. He walked into the lab. Eli looked up from where she was studying Aletharis's neural lattice sketches. Aletharis stood near the workbench. The monitor behind them still showed Cyberpunk 2077 paused mid-game. I leave for a few days and my rifle gets disassembled, Gunnar said mildly. Should I be concerned? Eli's expression tightened slightly. We can explain. We were exploring a design concept, Alathris said, his tone measured and careful. Based on your existing prosthetic integration, it required examining Starbreaker's current architecture. Gunnar set the containment package down on a secondary bench and moved toward the disassembled rifle. His hand hovered over the rune lattice, not touching, just assessing. Show me, he said. Alathris stepped forward and began walking through the neural runic conduit design. The palm node, the translator crystal, the safety seals with consent runes, the integration with Gunnar's existing starlight lattice. Neural runic interface, Gunnar said quietly, understanding the concept immediately. Synchronize intent with weapon engagement. Yes, Alathris confirmed. Your cybernetic arm already carries the starlight circuits. If we embed a control rune in your palm, we can use the existing conduits to complete the circuit. Thought becomes motion. Intent becomes command. Gunnar's gaze moved to Eli. What do you think? I think they touched my rifle without permission, which is infuriating, Eli said flatly. But the work is solid. The safety protocols are maintained. Dual added emergency dampening. If we're doing this, we do it right. No shortcuts, no risks with your neural pathways. Gunnar looked at the blueprints more carefully. He studied Alatheris's sketches, the mathematical notation, the way the runes were aligned. This is good work, he said finally. Which is exactly why you're all going to brief me on every single modification before anything goes into my arm. He turned to face them directly. I appreciate that you maintained the safety framework, but this is my body, my prosthetic, my neural integration. Nothing happens without full understanding and explicit consent. Agreed, Alatheris said immediately. Absolutely, Eli added. Gunnar nodded, then gestured to the containment package. But that can wait. We've got priority intel that just came in from Eldermire. Control crystals from Black Dawn's portal network. Eli needs to analyze them immediately. Starbreaker can be reassembled after we know what we're dealing with. He looked at the rifle spread across the bench. The neural interface is interesting, he said. But first we find out what Black Dawn was planning. Then we figure out if giving my weapon a mind of its own is worth the risk. Eli moved to the containment package, already shifting her focus. How many crystals? 3, Gunnar replied. Black Dawn was setting up a distributed network, multiple simultaneous portal connections. Coordinated operation, Eli said, her analytical mind already working through the implications. She opened the containment package carefully, revealing the 3 crystalline structures pulsing faintly with residual energy. Alatheris moved to help her, beginning to set up the resonance analyzers. Gunnar lingered for a moment, looking at Starbreaker still disassembled on the bench. The rifle that had been shattered during the assault at Atherin. The rifle that Eli had rebuilt. The rifle that Alatheris and Caleb had just attempted to redesign based on a video game concept. When we get through this, he said quietly, we're doing this properly. Full briefing, full understanding, full consent. But I'm interested in what you 3 were thinking. It's sound work, Eli said, her attention already on the crystals as she began her initial analysis. Once we deal with this, we continue it. Right way. Gunnar nodded. Behind them, Cyberpunk 2077 remained paused on the monitor, a silent reminder that sometimes the best ideas came from unexpected places, even if they did come with complications.